Yeah, okay. My name is Tony Manero. I'm calling from Lagos in Nigeria. All right.
Thank you.
So, Omoyele, I've been a fan of you. I've watched you since the days of the Aluta struggle. We're about the same age. I'm a very passionate person, politically and otherwise. Now, all this talk is all good, and I'm a member of this. I got beaten up the other time when we tried to stop the toll gate matter. So I've been in the struggle to an extent. Now, one of the problems I see, or one of the problems I've encountered, is how to synthesize the very people we try to liberate, the youths, the people that are in charge of the future. Many of them don't seem to understand these things that we're trying to say, that the future belongs to us. We cannot keep selling our votes. We cannot keep following these guys. We cannot keep lying down and allowing them matches. So how do we, because it's difficult to tell the man under the bridge here that the future belongs to you when he tells you, when he farabale and no. I had that 5,000 naira means a lot to him. That woman, they don't understand these things. How do we synthesize these people to the extent where they are politically liberated, they are active, they are aware enough to make that move, that revolutionary move that will tilt this power to the people? How do we do it?
You see, I mentioned something earlier that it's a very simple tool, right? I use social media as a measure of how are we responding to the things that bother us. You have a Facebook page, right? I'm sure. And I can almost swear that you are active on Twitter. You talk like one of us, the Twitterati, right? But the question is, how many friends do you have comes out to support a good position, a good idea, a good cause? Even though you drink beer with them from
not a lot. Not a lot.
Exactly.
Not a lot, my brother. Not a lot.
Until we start holding those our friends, so the ones, wherever you have your own sphere of influence, you must hold people to account on this score. Until we start doing that, I'm telling you, just start, do this experiment, because it made a difference for me.
Let me tell you, let me give you my own experience.
Okay, go ahead.
My experience in 2015, 2014, when Buhari came up. At that time, I know you were supporting Buhari, but now let's not crucify you. But when Buhari came up, I used to live in an estate where I had major influence, where the people controlling the estate. So I, on my own, I don't belong to a political party. But because I know the antecedents of Major General Buhari, and I know the antecedents of Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, I called people and said, listen, Jonathan might not seem to be a very bright or sellable guy, but he's a better choice than this guy. And we had banters upon banters upon banters. So it got to an extent where I started creating enemies among supposed enlightened, educated young men and women in an estate, in a middle, let's just say a middle class estate. You understand? And I was surprised the way these guys were reacting and thinking they were not seeing the picture. So if these guys cannot see the picture, how do you expect Tafik under the bridge or Surat in market to see that picture? That's what I'm saying. When the average person is only telling you that is it that one that will put food on my table? I beg you, let them do that one. When everybody for himself, everybody's trying to fight for himself. How? There must be something. There must be something. There must be a measure or like a system.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tony Manero. I know how passionate you are. You are just like myself. We're so passionate about our country, passionate about the ongoings, and this was meant to be a 25 minutes with Omoyele Sowore. It's running to 1 hour now. I will take the last one from a man who has been quiet all this while, and that's Mr. Ifashegun. Mr. Ifashegun, you are now unmuted. I'll take the last one from you, sir. Thank you.
I thought you were going to take the last one from a woman. Where are they?
we seem not to have the woman here at the moment. Perhaps they are busy managing the home. But okay, I'm trying to unmute you, Mr. Ifashegun, but I seem to be finding it difficult. I cannot unmute you here. I'm finding it very difficult to unmute you. Let me try somewhere else. Just 1 second. Okay, Mr. Ifashegun, you are on now.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Mine's gonna be more like of a contribution on. I'm very, very grateful to be on this platform, and you see, you've all made wonderful contribution, Mr. Sowore. I really appreciate you. You've said the problem of Nigerians. Mr. Tony, if you remember, you and I used to live in that same close estate. I'm in England at the moment, and I will be back in Nigeria after the lockdown.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah,
Good.
I remember you, bro.
That's it, man. Now, what I want to say is we have wonderful ideas how to liberate our people. But like you rightly said, Tony, the average man on the corner of the street don't understand what is going on in Nigeria. All they hear is there's 1 billion somewhere, there's 300 billion somewhere, somebody has told 600 billion. They do not understand how this process happened. Now, Mr. Sowore, you have said a lot, and I've always been a fan of you. I've always been following you. I've always been a great fan. But I will only contribute. Can we try as much as possible to try and communicate with our people in their native language? It makes a lot of sense. And like Tony said, we have educated illiterates. They are educated. They have all the degrees in the world you can imagine. But do you understand? You communicate with them for 30 minutes. They do not understand what you're talking about in that 30 minutes.
Yes. I
go back and speak to them in our native language that's got gravity that they understand. Don't lie to people. You go to the Igbo people, speak to them in their Igbo language. Imam like this, Maduga Wala. You speak to them in the language they understand. Then we will achieve this revolution that you are talking about. And people like us will follow you. Tony can testify to me. We will follow you. But when we have people that all they speak is big grammars. And then the people that follow me, I'm an Ifa priest. I've got thousands of Ifa priest devotees who I lecture on weekly and monthly basis everywhere across Yoruba nation. They're ready to follow. But do you think if I ask you to come and meet them and then you start speaking plenty English, would they listen to you, Mr. Sowore?
Yeah,
so we need to communicate with our people in a language that they understand. You will be surprised if you have an Hausa team, somebody who can speak Hausa properly and that can say proverbs in Hausa to the Hausa people. You will be surprised the turnout, the outcome you're going to get in the north. English language is not helping us.
My brother, I understand completely and I agree with you. In fact, the people who are holding Nigeria back today, they have succeeded in doing something that we don't do. They are reaching people in the language they understand. You understand? The Tinubus of this world, they have their Yoruba translators. They have Ewi exponents. They have all kinds of people drumming it down to the grassroots, in languages that people understand, proverbs, including body language. Yoruba is a language that uses the body a lot as well. Mm-hmm. The same thing with Igbos, Hausas, But what we lack, and this is where I will want us to deal with resources. What we lack and where the diaspora must come in is with resources, because I don't want a situation where we don't understand that we need some resources. And the diaspora that ships 50 billion naira to these crazy people every year, because they send in 50 billion naira to the Nigerian economy every year, the people in the diaspora, all of the diaspora, through Western Union or whatever union you use. And they use it for whatever they like, steal it. But our diaspora people have not come to the understanding that to change it, they have to channel some of that resource, not to me, but it could be just as you are saying, maybe someone in the diaspora can support the Ifa priests who want to become revolutionaries. We can have some people who can support the Igbo for revolutionary and they speak in Igbo. These Hausa people you are talking about, I have often said it. My experience, first when I went to do service and when I went to campaign, is that when Hausa people say they believe in something, they are different too. They will stand there. If you kill them, the more you kill, the more they come out. Their conviction level is serious. Of course, it is because they still use that transistor radio, BBC Hausa service, VOA Hausa service, Deutsche Welle Hausa service. The BBC Yoruba service is dying as we speak now. They just started it a few years ago because Yoruba people are busy on Twitter and Facebook trying to tell you who speaks the Queen English the best, you know, picking you apart because you had a typographical error in English or not Yoruba. The same thing with Igbos, right? You know, they're there trying to speak big grammar and abandoning their own cultural work. But the Hausas have remained very cool. If you go to a Hausa group, Facebook, Yahoo group, they write in fluent Hausa.
Yeah.
Yes. If you go to a Yoruba group, if you write Yoruba there, they will say, can you come and repeat it? Can you come and explain this in English? As if they don't understand Yoruba, because we have not used that language as a method of communication. It has become, you know, a language in the museum. When I was in secondary school, our teachers used to write on the billboard, vernacular speaking is totally prohibited. What is vernacular? Yoruba language. You understand? Anyway, so I'm saying I'm breaking this thing down to you just to tell you how much I understand it. But it requires resources. There was a guy recently who was ranting. He was just ranting on Twitter. I don't even know his whereabouts. He was ranting on Facebook. One guy was calling for a revolution. I don't know if you saw him. It's about 3 weeks ago. But why the thing was so effective? Everything he said was repeated in Hausa language, not Yoruba, not Igbo. Because he knew that Igbos understood English, Yoruba understood English, but the Hausas that he needs to really rile up, they understand Hausa language. The Hausa language has its own intonation, it has its own nuances that people understand when you speak. It's different from when you say the same thing in English. So I totally agree with you, and these are resources we must bring onto our struggle for liberation. So I'm just saying your contribution is kosher completely, and it's something we will consider. This is part of what I think about every day, but don't have the capacity. But you know, we have to just pay attention to it. So that the woman who is selling, you know, on the street corner who doesn't speak English, you know, I find the Edo language to be also an interesting language that, you know, as much as they travel far and wide, they still preserve communicating in Edo, the Benin language. How do we reach all those women who speak that? And quite honestly, the moment we can reach just 2% of our population with this message that we have, the job is done. Job is done.
Well, thank you very much, Omoyele Sowore. Before we let you go, how is Madam and the children in America? Are you hearing from them?
They're good. We communicate. We are now a digital family, so until we unite in person. But we're in touch, and they are going through the whole global pandemic as well. Just keeping all of them in our prayers and supporting each other on both sides of the Atlantic. You know, they live in the New York area. New York, New Jersey had the worst cases when the pandemic started. So far, I'm glad they're doing well, and they've been holding out very well too. You know, my wife became a more revolutionary person than I thought I married.
Yeah, she was all out there when you were in detention.
And this is the reason why I'm saying that we have way more than the number of people we think are supporting us. People are just waking up gradually. You know, my wife has never spoken politics to me before. He knows that I'm a rascal. You know, she knows that. You know,
political rascal.
But I was, yes.
We all are.
But when she stood up, I was in detention, and they would bring her, you know, video recordings to me in the DSS. People was like, they didn't even know I was married. You know, so if someone like my wife could have been influenced by my political views and activities, you can imagine how many people are out there. So each time you have a radically, you know, toned person, you also have a wife who is listening in, who you may not even know is more radical than you until the moment try them out.
Yes, thank you very